Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this Finance Vision Council training, and we really appreciate your time and your interest in serving in our grant process this year. And so I will just go ahead and share my screen, and we will go ahead and get started. Okay, great. As I said, thank you so much and welcome to our Finance Vision Council training. So who you'll be working with, my name is Katie Wise. I'm the Director of Community Impact here at United Way of Oregon County, and I am over the grant process and all of our kind of internal kind of impact programs. So if you need any assistance with the grant or anything like that, I will be your main point of contact for this grant cycle. So I just kind of wanted to give you all kind of like an update on, kind of this is where our focus is going to be for our 2024 grant. And so we have 4 bold community goals that we are asking agencies to align to, and to at least one. And so for health, really focusing on mental and behavioral health. So decreasing the number of suicide ideations and attempts and decreasing the number of drug-related overdose deaths. For education, we want to increase the number of children who meet developmental milestones and enter kindergarten ready, and increase access to equitable learning opportunities and high quality childcare for children and youth. For self-sufficiency, we want to increase the number of Horry County residents meeting self-sufficiency standards. And for basic needs, we envision a future where everyone has access to food, shelter, clothing, healthcare, basic materials, transportation, and a sense of security. So this is kind of what the Finance Vision Council will be looking at like during our grant process. We have our normal grant where they have a bunch of questions to fill out. They have to tell us, how their program aligns with one of the VOLT goals. They'll have to measure outcomes, all that good stuff. But a big piece of their grant is their fiscal strength. And so that's where you all come in as the Finance Vision Council. So we'll be looking at their fiscal strength. We'll be looking at their capacity and infrastructure for long-term sustainability. And the documents that you'll be reviewing, you can read the applications just to kind of get a good sense of kind of who the agency is. But the documentation that you'll be paying more attention to are the audit, to include the management letter. We require an audit from agencies with a budget of over $500,000. And any agency with a budget under $500,000 will be required to fill out the financial systems questionnaire. And that was created by one of our board members. And we felt that this would be better than actually having smaller agencies go get an audit or an independent financial review. And so we are asking that that they fill out the financial systems questionnaire and have it signed by their board chair and 2 other board members. And then you'll also be looking at, so that one will be either or, just depending on their budget. And so you'll also be looking at their current fiscal year organization and budget, their most recent balance sheet, their profit and loss statements from their last 2 completed fiscal years, their 990, and if it's program specific, their program budget, and then their budget narrative. So this is kind of the timeline for the applications. So they'll be open on May 22nd and they close on June 30th. And then after that, the applications will then be assigned to all of the Vision Council members. And so we have 4 Vision Councils. We have health, education, self-sufficiency, and basic needs. They all align with the pillar that they're applying under. And then we have you all as the Finance Vision Council, who will just be reviewing the financial documentation. And so kind of those last few weeks in July, between July and August, we will have a virtual meeting as the Finance Vision Council to kind of discuss the applications and the financial documentation that you all reviewed. We're going to try to have at least 2 to 3 reviewers like per application. And we're going to try to, and also depending on the number of volunteers we have, we will try to assign kind of like certain Vision Council members to like a certain pillar. And so hopefully we can have like 2 or 3 reviewers for education, 2 or 3 for health, 2 or 3 for self-sufficiency, and 2 or 3 for basic needs. And so we'll kind of see, we're still in the process of recruiting some volunteers, but that is the goal, is to be able to kind of have everyone kind of aligned with the pillar. So we asked at those meetings that you all come ready to kind of discuss everything, have all of your scoring complete, and the group will discuss, the strengths, weaknesses, and scoring of each application. And so then in August, the way that we'll kind of do it this year is if we have pressing questions for an agency from the Finance Vision Council about any of their financial documentations or fiscal strength, we can have the opportunity to have a virtual call with the agency to discuss any questions that we may have. If we need to, if we don't need to, then that's okay too. That will be an option. We also, the other 4 vision councils will be doing site visits, and that'll be conducted by kind of our health, education, basic needs, self-sufficiency, to ask more questions about very program specific, application specific, more kind of asking about the agency in general. You are more than welcome to kind of tag along on those site visits just to kind of see, how our investment dollars are hard at work. You can ask your questions there as well if you have any questions about the agency or any of their financial things on the volunteers. And then also too, after either having a meeting or going on a site visit, you'll have the opportunity to go back in and rescore the application if needed, because in that way, if we have a question, we kind of score the below first. Once we get that question answered, we can go back in and up that score if we need to. And then in September, the vision councils will meet with our allocations chair in 2-hour meetings to make the final funding recommendations to be brought back to our board of directors in September for final approval. The Finance Vision Council volunteers can attend these meetings, but it's not necessarily a requirement that you attend those. I can take our financial recommendations back to the board and back to these meetings to talk about any of that. And so, but we do invite you all to come to those meetings if you would like to. So overall expectations of the reviewers, we ask that you keep applications and scores confidential. This is not public information until the grants are awarded. And we ask that you review the financial documentation and score each one using the Finance Vision Council scorecard. And I will send you all what that scorecard looks like and the questions we're asking. We ask that you report any conflict of interest to United Way and don't score the proposals in which you have a conflict. And so if you serve on a board of any of these agencies, if you regularly volunteer at any of these agencies, if you or anybody in your family or someone that you know has received services from any of these agencies, or if they're a client of yours in some way at like your bank or your accounting firm or anything like that, if you are involved in them in any way would be considered a conflict of interest. So you all would just need to let me know which ones you have a conflict with. And two, we ask that you just become familiar with our funding eligibility requirements and to really become familiar with the scorecard as well. And make sure to set enough time aside to review each of the applications thoroughly. It's really not a super quick process. So I would say it would probably take about an hour or so to kind of review all of the financial documentation for each one, maybe a little less, just kind of depending on kind of how you do it. We ask that you do an initial read of the financial documentation beforehand, but don't score them the first time you read them. Use that initial review, kind of get a general sense of what their financial position is and kind of where you can find details important for scoring. And of course, I'll be available for any questions or check-ins or anything like that throughout the process. And then we ask that you reread the financial documentation and begin scoring from there. Use a scorecard to guide your scores and make sure that you kind of use those comment boxes to write down any fiscal strengths and weaknesses to support your scores. Everyone scores differently and that's okay. Just make sure to be consistent with your scoring. Only score based on the information provided and don't assume anything. And definitely just score the documentation against the scorecard, not other applications. So for some final tips, for every grant process, there's not enough funding to fund all requests. There's always more than one review group scoring different applications. And it's important that you, for volunteers to carefully score the proposals, because we rely heavily on you all to recommend funding for the programs and with the strongest chances of being successful. EC Impact is United Oregon County's online grant management system. That's where the agencies turn in their applications, and that's where you all will be as our Vision Council volunteers. And so that's where you will use that. And so I will show you what that system looks like. Okay, so this is what EC Impact looks like. And let me go to the home screen. And so whenever you log in or create your account, you can go right here and you will see the Finance Vision Council. Actually, there's multiple on here. This is our test volunteer. And so you'll see here the 2024 grant application and Finance Vision Council evaluation. And so you will click on that. And here is where you will see all the instructions on kind of the documents that you'll be reviewing. And then also kind of which parts of the application to jump to see their financial documentation. And then this is where all your programs will be assigned. And so you can go here to click on the program. And here is their full application. And you'll be able to see, and you can print out the application. You can kind of, just kind of see everything that they have here. You can go to, and so you can go to the agency's website, and you can print over here, and then kind of as you're looking at everything, the evaluate button is over here. And so here is where you will actually fill out then the evaluation. And so we are still kind of working with the grant system to make sure everything is up to date in here. But we highly recommend kind of like looking at the application first, looking at the scorecard, and then going back in here and then scoring them from there. And so let me go back to my assigned evaluations. And then also something else that you will be able to see. Actually, let me go back in here real fast. There's one other thing I wanted to show you. Okay, actually, no, I think we're good. Okay, so my assigned evaluations. Okay, so now we're back here on the home screen, and you'll be able to see over here in the corner too, our resource center. And you can see our game plan, our funding eligibility, the PDF versions of the scorecard, the trainings that the agencies have to go through for us. So if you are interested to see what we're telling them, you can go on here and look at that. And then also the trainings for this and for our other vision councils as well, if you need to go back and do that. And of course, if you have any questions about, about your volunteer, anything having to do about this, if you have any questions about EC Impact, I'd be more than happy to help you kind of get on the system. I will send all the instructions on how to get on there, kind of how to use the system, kind of as we get a little bit closer to that point. But I appreciate you all joining us today on our Finance Vision Council training, and I look forward to working with you all soon. Thanks so much and have a great day.